if you know your purpose, if that purpose is, you are 100% down with your purpose, you're going to have less of an identity crisis. I keep saying crisis. I don't mean to say crisis. Less of an identity hit if you know your purpose. I think that's why mine was maybe a couple months long and not a year long, is because I've known my purpose for 20 years. I've been very fortunate from that standpoint. I knew what I was going to do next. Hi, thanks for joining me at Made to Matter, where we help men get ready to live their second half with purpose, vision, and do work that matters. Hi, I'm Landrum, and today we're going to ask this question: what can I expect when I go through midlife in terms of my identity? What can I expect to happen? And this is a very smart question to ask yourself. I think men, even myself, I did this. We underestimate the impact of identity. And in talking with many, many men, identity often comes up. So let's just paint the picture. We're in midlife. We'll call it, mid 40s, and we've been doing something for 15 years, 20 years, maybe sometimes 25 years if you haven't changed that career. And you can't help but sort of take on the identity of what that career is. And it's usually around work, right? It could also be around fatherhood. There's actually two hits that happen if you have kids, and that is, you've been raising these kids. If you have 2, 3, well, you could even have one. It's been 18 to 30 years of raising these kids, right? And all of a sudden they leave. They don't need you anymore. And that's a common theme. They don't need you anymore. As a matter of fact, if you do the empty nest thing, most men can suffer from, especially if you're retiring or you're working from home, the kids are gone. And then all of a sudden your wife says, I don't want you around anymore. Not that I want to completely get rid of you, but like, you're just sitting around the house, like go do something, be busy, like get out of here, right? And like that's a hit to the identity, because for so long we've been needed. We've been needed at work, whether you grew to be the CEO or you were a VP at work or some level of leadership, manager. You might even just been a key employer or a solid employee, and you were needed at work. And then suddenly, maybe whether it's through a layoff or another event, or you even choose to leave or exit or something like COVID, and you are no more at that work any longer. Well, suddenly you're not needed. So we have that theme going on from an identity standpoint, is ultimately you're not needed. What was so important before that people were willing to pay you tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, they're like, we don't have a role for you anymore. We don't need you anymore. Your identity is going to take a hit. And I don't care how prepared you are for it. It's going to happen. And why? Is because our identity is the container in which we see ourselves. It's like our reality, right? Perception is reality. And it's what we operate from. It's what the world has told us. Hey, that package that you have put together, fine, sir. Yes, we like that package. Yes, she married me for that package. Yes, he hired me for that package. Whatever it may be, that is our identity. And so quickly it can be gone. It can completely change. And so the first thing I want to explore three things to help you with this and to help you be prepared. Three things that you can do to lessen the impact. There's going to be an impact. So if you haven't left this dream job, if you're about ready to empty nest or something, or some big change is going to come, that where you were a main role and suddenly you're not going to be that main role anymore, your identity is going to take a hit. So how can we address this? Well, before I even get into that, I want to say, hey, this is actually a good thing, because sometimes, right, we can over identify with what it is, or we can get stuck. So here's an opportunity. This gives us an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. So there should be some level of hope, right? Again, whether it's if it's empty nesting, it's like, okay, I've been dad, I've been the provider, I've had all this obligation and responsibility, and all of a sudden I'm going to be freed of all of that. Like, what can I do with all this time? I've always wanted to take up golf, or I've always wanted to do this or that, right? So there is an opportunity that will come. It won't come initially, I don't think, but eventually it will come. So you have that to look forward to. The same with work. Like, gosh, I was so responsible at work. I had to do this, had $1 million quota. This, and this. It's a lot. It's nice to be needed, and it's nice to even be the one delivering critical results. But it's also nice not to have that pressure on you anymore either. All right, so there are some upsides. But let's talk about the three things. The first thing that we want to do is just address the brutal facts. Right? Jim Collins, a level 5 leader, just part of his advice was like, hey, look, the facts are the facts, just address it. And so what we want to do is if an event happens, midlife happens, and often in midlife, a lot of events happens. One may be you lose your parents, right? And again, that's another identity thing of like, you now have no parent, you have no one who, the people who probably knew you best, you don't have the ability to go to anymore. And so, but we want to address the brutal facts and just say, okay, hey, look, I know my identity has changed. I don't know what that means for me right now, but I know it's changed, and I know I have work to do. And I think that's the big thing, is just to acknowledge that there is work to be done. And when you lose a big part of your identity, or it takes a blow in some way, shape, or form, just know that you got to do the work, and it's something you can't shortcut. It's something you can't go around. This is something that you have to go through. And so we're going to acknowledge the brutal facts. So for me, when I sold my business, I knew my identity was going to take a hit. I did. And 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 as best I could prepare for it, I was the boss for 22 years. I had employees, I had an assistant, I had resources that gave me access to buying things that I wouldn't be able to buy, let's just say individually on my own, but because of my business, it gave me a lot of leverage. So there was trappings that came with it that built up around my identity, and all of a sudden one day, boom, that's gone. Okay, when I sold it. So there were just, even though I knew it was coming, I underestimated, like I said, the impact that it ended up having on me for the next at least 2 months. Now, but I've talked to people where it's been a year, where it's been years. I think part of that duration is how well prepared you are for it. So hopefully that's why you're listening to this or watching this. And so if you can address the brutal facts, yes, I'm losing a big part of my identity, and two, I understand I have to rebuild it into something else, right? All right. The second thing that you want to prepare yourself for, that I just alluded to, is time. Give yourself enough time. Like, I think the worst thing that could happen is you get laid off from a 20-year job, and then you, like, next week you'll get a new job and you just jump right into something completely new, or a big new company, whatever. Although that sounds nice, like, whew, I don't have to deal with that. Man, I think you're still dealing with it, and then you just jumped into another thing, and that is probably going to prolong struggling with the identity than it is going to fix it, right? Or to build a new one. So give yourself time, and just be kind to yourself and generous, that, hey, you know what? You just sort of need to do nothing for a while and just sort of figure out who you really are. The third thing is support. And you might, whether it's a spouse, hopefully it's a spouse, you have that. But I mean, if you're married, hopefully your spouse supports you. But if it's good friends, peers, who are, like, just talk to people about it. Just be honest. say, hey man, can I check in with you on something? Like, here's what I'm really struggling with. If you can get support and you get that outside perspective, that's huge. So 3 things to help battle when identity crisis happens, not crisis, a hit to your identity, and that is, um, address the brutal facts. It's going to hurt, and that's okay. And that's normal. 2, give yourself ample amounts of time, and 3, make sure you got support. Make sure you got support. And I want to give you a bonus thing that will really help. If you know your purpose, if that purpose is, I mean, you are 100% down with your purpose, you're going to have less of an identity crisis. I keep saying crisis. I don't mean to say crisis. Less of an identity hit if you know your purpose. I think that's why mine was maybe a couple months long and not a year long, is because I've known my purpose for 20 years. I've been very fortunate from that standpoint. I knew what I was going to do next. I just sort of had to wait it out. Even with that clarity, even with that foundation and that certainty, it still was a process. It still was painful. But let's now just go back to the upsides. I am so happy that I had that impact to my identity. I'm so happy I went through midlife and asked the hard questions. Who am I really? Is this all there is? Is there not more? And the answer to that, I can tell you from the other side, the answer to that is absolutely 120%. It is not bad what you're going through or what you may go through. It is good. It might not feel great. It might not be the most comfortable thing, but I can't tell you what an opportunity you have that I've already mentioned, but to reinvent yourself, to repurpose yourself, to now go and do the thing that you've always wanted to do. So if you're having a midlife event of the things that I've mentioned, I congratulate you. That's awesome. I don't envy you for maybe how tough it's going to be, but man, get that support. Give yourself that time. Just address it head on. And I promise on the other side, it's going to be awesome. Thank you for tuning in to Made to Matter. And I hope to see you on future episodes. You can visit madetomatter.coach to find more. Take care. Don't